I had an idea and I was thinking about it. It was sort of in my mind, and it's that, see if you can follow this one along. It's that neither socialism nor capitalism are completely workable in their extreme states, and that whereas on one end of the scale you have with socialism complete emphasis or on the survival of the group, and on the other, and with capitalism, you have complete emphasis on. This is not necessarily true of all forms of capitalism, but just a broad. You have emphasis on the individual survival or the individual pleasure in capitalism. This is not true in all forms of capitalism. There's a benevolent sort of capitalism too, where well, I'll do a video on an expansion of this, but just to get an idea of why something for nothing causes an economy to fail. So if I come to you and I come to your house and take your stuff and run away, I'm trying to get something for nothing, and that's frowned upon in the society. It's considered to be theft, and there's different degrees of theft. But, so let's say in a society that emphasizes only possession of things for the group, then it's okay to have something for the group and nothing for the individual. On the other side of capitalism, it's okay, the reverse is emphasized, where it's something for the individual and nothing for the group. Either way is probably not a functional philosophy in many ways, unless the philosophies were modified with some form of actual with more information. And here's why. It's that in an ideal state, in extreme socialism all the way around, it would be where there would be nothing given to the individual. He would be expected to completely contribute to the state, and where he would not be entitled to anything in return. And in capitalism, the goal of it is to, basically, like if you look at like generic capitalism, it would be sort of the idea where you want to gain all of this, amass all of this wealth, and then end game would be, now you have all these things and the other people in the society don't, and you can just strictly because you have all this wealth, you're entitled to gain the fruits of the labor of the goods and services of the working class and stuff like that, or others. I would seek to modify both those two extremes. And obviously I do prefer to be on the individual side, where it's something for the individual and less for the group, because I don't think groups are at this time very, very smart or very good at handling capital. So I would say you can get more shit done by giving power to strong individuals. But maybe in a perfect world, you could have a strong group composed of strong individuals, where you could have a group making sane decisions. But here's where I would warn people to keep their head on straight. Is like, you never want to get to the point where you are not giving and taking. At that point, an economy breaks down. And that's where sustainability is no longer possible. So no matter what, if you promise something for nothing, for example, in socialism, which is basically what is promised, is that you'll gain these things and there'll be some form of trade-off, but you're not really actually responsible for those trade-offs. We make someone else responsible for those trade-offs. And you generate this sort of imbalance. If you took that all the way to the extreme, it would be where you're not really entitled to have anything, no pleasure, no possessions, no self-ownership at all, whatsoever, on in total socialism. And on the other extreme is where you're just a rich capitalist, where you're sort of actually like a parasite on the production of others in the society, where you want to sit in your lofty castle and own the money supply, and you don't actually contribute anything back to in terms of production. So that is the other extreme form of capitalism. So I think the workability of these philosophies is somewhere in between, and I would tend to think that individuals are pretty good, so you want to give them more control and give the group less control. But if you sought to give and take, and if you understand like having a balance and fair, equitable exchange, you'd be on the right track. And I think you can measure people's philosophies based on these things. Like, are they demanding? People may come up to you and insist that they're being quite capitalist, and yet demand that they're entitled to some kind of a gain without having a clear and well-defined thing that they're willing to give back for it. Anything that doesn't have a good or service or product that someone else would totally accept voluntarily is a scam and will fall apart. Can't be sustained. Look at every single thing throughout history. And if you see stuff that is starting to take more than it's starting to give, you can basically predict the future, because Mother Nature will balance, or I don't know what forces will balance it, but anyway, either way, whether you're extremely poor or whether you're extremely rich, you are not an island unto yourself. And I think that this is a really hard thing to grasp. Okay, anyway, sorry, long video. There you go. Bye.